Howdy, this is Texas Jim. Bruce is on the road and can't be with us tonight, so I'm hosting. Texas Jim is with us. Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, and this is our Thursday evening Cadillac chat. We'll be chatting for about an hour. The video is on caddyinfo.com live during the chat. Goes to a YouTube video when we're done. And the topic tonight is, well, it's open. We're talking about Cadillac topics as our general charter, but we have been known quite often to diverge into general car enthusiast topics. We're also hosting a Duke SS100 3839 Jaguar replica forum on Caddy Info, and we have other guest forums also. So we have a lot of things that diverge from Cadillac specific, but most of our discussions are about Cadillacs. Our true love is Cadillac enthusiasts. Texas Jim, what was your first Cadillac?
My first one was a 1980.
A 1980?
And I bought it. It had 1,300 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Demo
or something?
No, a friend of a friend had bought it new.
Oh.
And he traveled a lot. He was a car dealer.
Oh, I see.
And he traveled around to auctions, buying cars and having them shipped back to his dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And right after he bought it, he had a major heart attack. The doctor told him he better retire or die.
Wow.
So he sold his car, and I bought it. That was
going to be his traveling road car?
And, like I said, it only had 1,300 miles on it. And when I got rid of it, I'd had it 21 years.
Beautiful.
And I sold it in 2001.
Wow.
And probably, counting all the cars I've had since the late 50s, early 60s, that was probably the best car I ever owned.
Yeah.
I had well over 250,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically had done, when you consider that mileage, I'd done almost nothing to it.
Is that a 368?
Yeah, 368.
Brick.
It still ran well, didn't use any oil, run just as good as it did when I bought it.
Yeah.
Body, I kept it cleaned and waxed and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Took care of the interior. The interior is still in good shape. There wasn't any rips or tears or anything on the leather.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold it in 2001.
Yeah.
Now, I'd had other ones. I'd had a whole bunch of them in between 1980 and now.
Uh-huh.
But that one never did go anywhere. I kept it. I bought some of the other ones and, drove them a year or 2, 3, whatever. Some of them 6 months, get rid of them just because I wanted to buy another one. And,
what was your favorite Cadillac?
Well, that's hard to say. Probably the one I have now. And I've got 140,000 on it, 2006. I bought it new.
Yeah.
And I had another one before I got this one, 2006. But I had it a little less than a year, and my garage caught on fire.
Oh, geez.
And burned it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I replaced it with this other new 2006 after I got my insurance check. And that's a whole nother story, getting the insurance check, but we won't go into that. So, but that 80 model, if not the one I have now, the 80 was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
But I've had 2 81s. See, I had an 84. I kept the 84 for a long, long time. I also sold it in 2001. I kept it
Mm-hmm.
from 84 to 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 78 Eldorado, and I had a I had an 81 uh, Fleetwood Brougham de Elegance with the 864 that
Mm-hmm.
everybody cusses, but I liked it. I never had any trouble with it. And then I had an 81 Seville diesel, and I had an 81 sedan diesel, and I had I believe it was 81 or an 82 Oldsmobile 98 diesel, and I never had any trouble out of any of them. But I realized a lot of people did. So,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a legitimate complaint, I suppose, but I didn't have any trouble with mine. But I
Well,
treated them like a diesel. I didn't treat them
yeah.
like a gas engine.
Yeah, well, that's I think the root of the problem. I think in large part, what people say about them is that they were a redesigned gas engine. It never was designed to withstand the uses of diesel. Is just BS. It was a whole white sheet of paper design. It was the same displacement, and we've seen that in the blog as lately as this week, and it's just plain
Right.
false.
Yeah, that's false.
Yeah, but also back in the day, I remember the Cadillac V864, and I uh, let's see, Bruce has got another. No, now that's the message you just sent us. These offline isn't available tonight. But I never heard anybody having trouble with it, but I heard a lot of people didn't like it because it was different and they could feel it. When it shut down cylinders, you could feel a little vibration in the engine if you really look for it and stuff like that. And they thought,
You
well,
had to, on my Fleetwood,
mm-hmm,
if you was going to feel any vibration,
mm-hmm,
you had to really, really, really look for it,
yeah.
because I never noticed any.
Well, people would have something like that and they'd be nervous about it because it's it's different and they didn't like it, and then it that's the kind of thing I heard of. And of course, if a Cadillac dealer hears somebody complain about something, he's going to fix it. And if you just unhook one wire and the problem goes away, they're going to do it. And that's what happened to most of them.
But I like mine because out on the highway, if you kept it down to a reasonable speed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you had a 2.5-ton Fleetwood Brougham,
Yeah.
and out on the highway you could run along at a reasonable speed and get 20, 21, 22 miles to the gallon.
Yeah. With a
When
carburetor.
most,
Yeah.
yeah, and most cars that size was doing good to get 15.
Yeah. Yeah. Cadillacs always were good for gas mileage. People have a hard time with that until they have one, I think.
Yeah, my wife's brother, I told him for several years, about the gas mileage on my
mm-hmm.
various cars, including the one I have now.
Mm-hmm.
And he always agreed with me and said that was great, but you could tell that he really didn't believe it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, most people lie about the gas mileage of their cars.
Yeah. Well, my wife's another brother lives in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
His wife died.
Yeah.
So we all went to the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
We went up there at different times, but me and my wife and her brother and his wife, we came back together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in the same car. They were in their car and we were in our car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a Hyundai Sonata, and we run from South Carolina back to Texas. And every time we stopped, now they had suitcases and clothes and stuff, in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And to get all this stuff in the car, half of it was in the back seat, because the trunk wasn't big enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of our stuff was in the trunk. There was nothing in the back seat.
Yeah.
And as we came back, every time we stopped for fuel, I made it a point that he knew how many gallons I put in mine versus how many gallons he put in his.
Yeah.
And when we would stop for fuel, it would vary. Usually, it was around 1.5 gallons
Mm-hmm.
more fuel in my car than in his car.
Yeah.
And he's in a little Hyundai Sonata all cramped up. and I'm cruising along in my big old Cadillac. And we'd stop and get fuel, and it'd take 1 gallon more in mine, or 1.3, or
5%.
1.6
Yeah.
or something. And he just couldn't believe that till about the second or third time.
Yeah.
And he finally realized I got almost as good a mileage as he did.
Yeah.
And gas back then was like $3 a gallon.
Yeah.
So for my extra gallon of gas, it cost me $3 to ride along in the comfort of a Cadillac instead of being all cramped up in a little Hyundai.
I once, I'm one of these guys that runs the numbers before I make a decision on buying anything. And my wife was after me to trade in my Eldorado on something that got better gas mileage when gas hit $2 and $3 a gallon.
That don't make sense.
Well, I ran the numbers, and just as a straw man, I looked at something she liked. I forget what it was, but it was something that it's got 30 odd miles to gallon highway and 24 in town or something like that, versus the updated, gasohol, the 10% or 15% alcohol gas you buy now, the so-called so-called realistic or updated EPA, and it's like 15 or 16 in town and 22 on the road. And the VINY engines, the 375 horse, will get better than that. Mine got about that. And I have a lead foot and drive short trips a lot with the engine that's fully warmed up. That drags the gas mileage down a lot. But I could get 22, 23 on the road consistently on long trips, including overnight stops and gas and food. But I figured that it would take something like 22 years to break even on the difference in the cost of gas yearly for somebody that drove 12,000 miles a year. And of course, I was retired and wasn't driving. I was driving 8,000 miles a year. And I put it another way. I ran it in dollars, and I'm paying $25 a month to drive a Cadillac instead of some Econobox that I would not be comfortable at 82 miles an hour on the freeway. And if you drive the freeway and keep up with traffic, 82 miles is the going rate these days. That's what traffic does. So
a lot of the freeways here in Texas are worse than that because our speed limit's 75.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about, like IH-81, the stuff around New England, 95 north and south of the turnpike to and from Atlantic City. There are portions of the Atlantic City turnpike that the traffic moves faster, but I'm not real comfortable with that. I think that's just people getting a lead foot because they got a fast road and they don't see it very often. Yeah. And it's heavily patrolled, and it's not really flat and straight, like I would feel comfortable with at that speed. So I don't do it, and I just let them go. But and they get stopped too. They patrol it.
A lot of our freeways out west of the Fort Worth, Dallas area, speed limit's 80. And then there's one freeway down through Central Texas. It's a toll road. Speed limit on it's 85.
Capital of Texas Highway or something like that? Or is that the Austin Beltway? What do they call it?
It's a toll road from out north of Austin down to San Antonio.
Oh, okay. So it runs parallel to I-35, and it's east of town. It's a toll road, yeah. That road wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye last time I was in Austin.
Oh, no. They just built that in the last few years. It's only been open about a year.
Yeah.
And Hennessy took a CTSV out there. There's a video on YouTube. And he run 200.
Well, somebody has to do it.
That was just before it opened, and they had highway patrol out there. It was all by special arrangement.
Yeah. Yeah, it was don't try this at home TV special and all that. Yeah.
But he run a flat 200 in that V that he had reworked.
Well, Hennessy is like that. He's God bless him. So like I said, somebody has to do it, and somebody with the money to an expendable car. So I mean, that's car like that's not going to be a trouble-free, economical daily driver.
No,
Like
no,
like
of course
I
not.
mean, mine's only got 550, 600 horsepower in it. God knows what his had, but close to 1,000 probably.
I think that one was supposed to have been 850.
850.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've read that number stuff. He'll
Yeah.
sell you one for that. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you got a big enough check.
you got it. Yeah, but I'm not really interested in driving 200 miles an hour.
I'm
I've
not either.
had enough experience with speeds well over 100 to understand that
So
it's basically high risk race car country, and lives of tires are measured in hours, not months or years, and
right.
the probability of hitting a dip in the road that'll throw your car up in the air asymmetrically so it lands upside down is non-zero on most public roads, and these dips are slight enough to where you'll never notice them at 80. So I really don't believe in it myself. Of course, I'm sure that road was scoped out and tried at intermediate speeds long before he did his
Oh yeah.
time trials. I'm sure he knew what he was doing and it was safe as anything like that can be. Uh,
I hardly ever run much over 90. 90
yeah,
is fast enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's about it. The long straight roads over the high desert. I would hold it around 90, but that's the fastest I've ever driven. My going rate since I was a kid has been 75. I learned that with my first car because I was as fast as that 41 Chevrolet would go without overheating in the Texas
Well,
summer. Is
well, mine, truthfully, it just starts to cruise real good around 90.
Yeah, well, what can
It
I say?
prefers it. Each car has a speed that they want to run at, if you'll
Yeah,
let them.
yeah,
And mine prefers between 90 and 100.
yeah.
But 100 a little bit too fast, and I kind of get funny looks from the other half. I got in trouble one time because of that.
No, with
We
who?
were we were coming out of Colorado, coming back
Uh
home,
huh.
and we were uh, coming down Raton Pass
Mhm.
out there in New Mexico, coming out of southern Colorado,
Mhm.
and I was fixing to turn over and come across the plains there of New Mexico and the panhandle of Texas and come down to Amarillo.
Mhm.
And I told her I wanted to come on down to Amarillo to spend the night. She said, uh, well, we don't need to be running 100 mile an hour. I said, okay. So I got over there to Dumas and I started south on 287 and
Mhm.
they had resurfaced my side of the road. It was all brand new asphalt, nice and smooth. And
Quiet.
I really wasn't watching the speed.
Mhm.
I was just cruising along. She was sitting over there and directly she said, I thought you said you wasn't going to be running 100 mile an hour. And I glanced down at the speedometer, and before I even thought,
Mhm.
I said, I'm not. I'm only doing 99.
Ah!
And that wasn't the smartest thing I ever
No.
said, but
No.
it was kind of quiet and chilly for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I use the cruise control. I find myself with the speed either creeping up or creeping
Now,
down the
if
highway.
I'm going to be driving along around the speed limit, I'll use the cruise control.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Well,
But
I
but
I
if
use
I'm
it.
but if I'm going to be running above the speed limit, I need to be paying attention.
Yeah.
I need to be driving the car. I don't need it driving itself.
Yeah. Well, if it's low traffic and four-lane interstate, well, then I'll put it on whatever the flow of traffic is to avoid encounters with people coming up or going behind as much
So,
as possible. And that typically is 75 to 82. I'll take that back. I've set it as low as 72, depending on what part of the country. But 82 is the highest I use a cruise control.
so
But if I'm unfamiliar with the road and there's traffic or the service isn't right or whatever, my speed will tend to creep down
yeah,
unnecessarily. And if
yeah.
it's boring, it'll tend to creep up as I get used to the speed and it seems slower. It's the human tendency, I'm afraid. But so I use the cruise control for that. I used it when I was driving back from Texas, partly because I wasn't used to the car and the speed kept creeping down on me.
Yeah.
So I just put it on whatever the traffic was, and I would just drive along with traffic and then hit the set button and then see what it was afterward. And generally, it was depending on the part of the country, high 70s to 82. Most of the way it was 82, except through the mountains of Tennessee, the twisties, where people tended to drive faster. People just love those twisties.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to leave it on the cruise control and to drive around those people, which I did. It's amazing how easy it is to drive around hot shoe BMWs in the twisties with a CTSV on cruise control.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, they're on the inside lane, starting to be a little unstable in that light little 3 or 5 series, and there I am planted like a brick and driving around them. Changing lanes on, if they change lanes that threaten their stability or traction, I just, do it with the cruise control on. Nice day.
Yeah, out on the interstate, I'll sometimes, when I first get on the interstate for a few miles, I'll be over in the right lane going along with the traffic until I have somebody pass me in the left lane going, at a pretty good clip.
Yeah.
So then I'll drop out and drop behind them, drop back about 100 yards.
Let them do your front door.
Let them get me in the front door.
Yeah, I don't like to be the fastest guy on the freeway. They're the ones that get the tickets.
Yep. I've been down that road a time or two, too.
Yeah. Well, I learned that lesson young enough to where I've never really done that. Never been the fastest guy on the freeway. I figured that out a long time when I was still a teenager. Cop told me. I liked cops back then. I had some that chatted with me. I had a personal friend that was a cop. I met him in the hospital. He happened to stop in because I had a motorcycle accident, and he stopped in and said hello. No, that was later. I forget what I was in there for. It was that infection I got while I was a college student.
Huh.
I don't remember. I knew his brother. That's it. I knew his brother where I worked, and so he stopped in and said hello. And I found that if they look at you in the eye and they think you're a good head, they'll tell you lots of things that are very important, very interesting in terms of getting along out there. Like never mess with somebody who's being belligerent on the road. You never know whether they're drunk or crazy.
Right.
When I see somebody doing something really stupid or weaving all over the road, I tell my wife, says, we better be careful of him. He might be sober. And she thinks it's just a joke, but the ones that do that sober are the really scary ones.
Yeah. Yeah, when I see them weaving around, that's when I call 911. I have absolutely zero tolerance for drunk driving.
I've called star 77 a couple of times when somebody passes weaving in and out of traffic with fresh body damage on the front of their car, because I figured that's fleeing hit and run, and I've given them description, license plate, and location, and then ring off. But other than that, I don't call the cops on people. I would if I felt like it was one time I saw a van going out on IH-405 on the weekend where the traffic was fast, and he had no air in his right rear, and so this was a rollover waiting to happen. And I punched OnStar red button and got the highway patrol and through them and convinced them they needed to just pull this guy over before he rolled his van.
Yeah, I've used my cell phone a few times and called 911 on somebody acting like they're drunk.
Yeah.
And I've even followed them and stayed on the line with 911 and keep up with the drunk.
Yeah.
And tell them, okay, you just turned off onto the 663 freeway, and we just went under, Lancaster exit or whatever. And then in just a couple of minutes, well, here comes couple of police cars, and they passed me, and then I slow down, and they pull the guy over.
Yeah.
But I just have no tolerance for drunks. Period.
Well, you drive on the road a lot, and I don't do that much in recent years. I think I'd do that too if I was on the road and saw a drunk and he scared me. I thought he was
well, the first car I was talking about, the one that burned, I like just a few weeks, just a couple of weeks, having it a year, and it had almost 40,000 miles on it.
Wow, yeah, that'll do it.
And that was in a year's time. And like I said, my wife had this stroke in 2010, and we had actually slowed down going then. But when she had that stroke in 2010, my car is a 2006. Of course, 2007 was already out when I bought it. And when she had strokes and I had to retire, it already had almost 100,000 on it.
Yeah.
And I had another car that I used for work. So this was just
weekend car. Yeah.
Taking trips mileage.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But we like long trips.
Yeah, I had a lot of highway miles on the Eldorado before we came east. Not so much since we come east. For one thing, my wife started having her back problems just a few months before we came east.
Yeah.
And for another, California and LA, well, then you can get on the road and go anywhere, and we did it a lot.
In 2011 or 2012, might have been, I don't know, one or the other. We took a trip from here out through Arizona, New Mexico, came in Southern California, went all the way up California, through Oregon, Washington State, back across Idaho, then went up into Montana, and went across that, what they call the Going to the Sun Highway at Glacier National Park. And that's a really nice drive.
Yeah.
And came back down then to Wyoming, had a friend down in Cody, Wyoming, came back down there, and then went from Wyoming over into Nebraska, and went over to Mount Rushmore up in South Dakota, and then circled back down and finally come back home. But that trip was 11,000 miles.
Longest road trip I ever took on a vacation was on a motorcycle in '71. It might have been '72. I went from Austin, Texas to Vancouver and back with side trips to Estes Park, Colorado, San Francisco, Yellowstone, and so forth. The last leg I rode from Rawlins, Wyoming into Austin, Texas, just under 24 hours, and had an extra day or two for running errands and so forth around town before I went back to work.
We drove from here to Key West, Florida, just to get key lime pie.
Why not? It tastes better than when it's fresh. No peel?
Yeah, real key lime pie from Key West.
Yeah, fresh.
That's where key lime pie was invented at.
Yeah. Well, you can't beat the flavor of fresh squeezed citrus, lemon or lime. And then you can tell once you've had it. You can tell when it's fresh. And if they ship them,
we were doing other things on the trip, but
yeah,
there's another forum I'm on.
Yeah.
And we were planning a trip down that direction anyway. And of course they didn't know it. And the discussion got around the food. And somebody said something about pies, and then it went to key lime pies. I said, I hadn't had a good key lime pie in a long time. I think I'll just drive down to Key West and get one.
Why the heck not?
Of course, they knew where I lived, Fort Worth. And it's a long way from Fort Worth to Key West. And oh no, ain't nobody stupid enough to do that.
There you come.
Watch me.
Where'd you drive from? Tampa?
Huh?
You drove from Tampa and made it in half a day?
Uh, actually, yeah, we got into Key West late that evening. Left
Yeah.
Tampa early one morning.
Yeah, it was
But
Tampa.
we went over into Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and then went down to Key West. Spent the night in Key West. Messed around there the next day, and then started north
Mm-hmm.
and left Key West. I was kind of planning on coming home, and we decided to go see her brother in South Carolina. And so we came back up the east coast of Florida,
Mm-hmm.
up through, Miami, up out I drove a lot of the old Highway 1,
Yeah.
Instead of the interstate. And I got up there in Georgia, and I called my brother-in-law, her brother. I called him, and he was over in Tennessee on vacation. So instead of that, we decided to heck with it. We just went to Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
So we went up Niagara Falls, you know, killed a couple of days there.
Mm-hmm.
Started to go home and decided to go to Chicago. So we went over to Chicago.
Never been to Chicago except for my IEEE convention once, and the hotels are
but
the same everywhere. It was the winter time,
but
so I didn't get out much.
but our
Also, I was
trips,
young. Mm-hmm.
as you can tell, we don't plan our trips.
Mm-hmm.
We just take off, and wherever we end up at, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Cause we like to just drive and look at the scenery and see things and see a road that looks interesting. Wonder where that goes. Hell, let's find out. So we
Yeah.
take off down that road.
Yeah, I used to do that driving around locally in Central Texas. When I was a kid, I just loved afternoon drives. I
Oh,
really knew
we'll
the
do it.
roads well around there.
We'll do it anywhere. We can be
Yeah.
running down the interstate, see a
Mm.
little sign about you know something that's off down this road to the right.
Why not? Yeah.
Oh, why
Well,
not?
these days with a OnStar GPS and a full tank of gas, the world is your oyster.
Well, we left here one time heading to. We were going to go out I-20 to Shreveport
Mm-hmm.
and go across Louisiana, come into Louisiana, cross over there at Vicksburg,
Yeah.
and then go down the river and look at a lot of them old plantation houses. My
Oh,
wife, my wife likes history,
yeah.
and I think them old houses are interesting. Some of them are so big, and
Mhm.
elaborate. They're really interesting to look at.
Well,
Take tours, pay you $5 and take the guided tour.
before the income
And
tax took hold, people could have mansions like that.
but
Oh.
we'd started down there. We
Mm-hmm.
got to Shreveport, ate lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and this was after school was out, so it was in June or maybe July, I don't know, but it was summertime. We started walking back to the car, and Lord, it was hot. It was just, I mean, really hot and humid.
Mm-hmm.
We got in the car, and I started it up, turned the air conditioner on, sitting there, letting it cool off a minute. And I asked her, I said, are you sure you want to go down there and see all them old houses? She said, well, that's what we've been planning on. I said, do you realize how hot it is? And she said, well, yeah, we just walked across the parking lot, got in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you realize them old houses are historical places. They do not have air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be walking around all day, sweating, climbing stairs and all this stuff, but obviously they don't have elevators.
No.
And I said, do you want to spend 3 or 4 or 5 days in the heat doing that? She thought about it a minute, and she says, I don't think so. So I said, well, what way do you want to go then? She said, well, it'd be cooler up north.
Mm-hmm.
So we headed north and went to Mount Rushmore again, then went over across the edge of Nebraska and dropped back down through uh, Wyoming and ended up in Las Vegas.
Well, you can get a lot of things cheap in Las Vegas. So the gamblers and the drinkers pay for everything. The hotels are cheap. The shows are great. They're cheap.
Yeah.
World-class entertainment. And
And
I hear the shopping's pretty good, and the prices are not bad there, too.
well, that was our first time to ever go there. This
Yeah.
was in about 76 or 77.
Yeah, I've been there
And,
several times for work because of Las Vegas attracts a lot of conventions.
yeah.
And I'm an engineer, and I learned from a shopkeeper they don't like engineers because they don't drink and they don't gamble.
And
So my
so
engineer friend and I just smiled and shot and left.
we had never been to Las Vegas, so we decided to go. Well, what we didn't know, of course, we'd never been there and didn't really know anybody that had ever been there. This was 76. That was, what, 70, 80, 92? That was almost 40 years ago. Las Vegas wasn't, 40 years ago, it wasn't like it is now.
No.
And all them big, huge hotels, they didn't even exist then.
Yeah, they had a few, but but they weren't like they are now.
We stayed at the Flamingo Hilton, and it had a 3-story waterfall that came down into one end of the pool, a great old big pool, and they had girls in bikinis swimming around out there with little floating trays, and they would swim up to you and want to know if you wanted something to drink. You tell them what you want, and there was a bar built into the side of the pool. So she swam over there with her little floating tray and mix your drink, whatever kind you wanted, and then bring it back to you out there in the pool. And anyway, it was all new to us. We're just like a couple of hillbillies out there. We didn't know what was going on. So we get up to the room, and the kid wanted something to eat. So we go down, and there's when you got off the elevator, you go through these double doors, and you go right into a little kind of a snack bar, but it was a little fancier than a snack bar, but it wasn't really a full-blown cafe. We went in there and sat down. I got him a sandwich. While I was waiting on that, right there, the cafe thing was like raised up about maybe a foot above the regular casino floor, and had a little railing around it, where you wouldn't fall off of the raised platform. And there was some slot machines right there by the little opening where you go down the steps into the casino floor. There was a bunch of slot machines right there against the railing. And the boy asked me, said, I've seen them on TV. Can I play one? I said, sure. So we walked over there, and they had nickels and quarters,
Yeah.
I had a few nickels in my pocket, so I handed him a nickel. He stuck a nickel in it and pulled the handle down. Of course, these were the old mechanical type, that does the click, 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 And he had done it a couple of times, and they were this great old big guy walked over there in a suit. And he told me, he said, he can't do that. And I said, yeah, he can. He don't have any problem. I thought he meant that he wasn't big enough. He couldn't reach the handle.
I think it's an age limitation. It had to be 18.
Yeah, you got to be 21.
21. Well, what about if your parents there? Is that
don't matter?
It over here? No.
To be on the casino floor, you got to be 21.
On the floor at all? Okay.
Yeah, on the floor. Period. He can't even walk out there, even if he ain't doing nothing. But he was playing the slot machine. Well, that broke all kinds of gambling rules.
Whoa.
But I didn't. But see, I didn't know that. So anyway, this guy says he can't do that. And about that time, I was handing him another nickel, while we were talking. And he stuck the nickel in there, and he pulled the handle again. And that guy said, he can't do that. I said, yes, he can. See, he can do it just fine. He don't have any problem. And I'm handing him another nickel, and this guy's getting all mad. He's getting all bent out of shape. Yeah. And I'm wondering, what's his problem,
Yeah.
And then he said something else, and it finally dawned on me. He don't mean that he can't physically do that. He means he's not legally allowed to do that. But he was saying he can't do that. Like, he wasn't able to do it. And,
Well,
he
yeah.
could do it just fine, because I handed him another nickel, and this guy was getting just madder than heck.
Every time I go to Las Vegas, I put 1/4 in a slot machine. And that way I never lose any money. And if I ever get I'll get a jackpot, I'll have a hell of a story.
Well, now, what we did, we didn't know. We'd heard all kinds of stories about people getting caught up in it, and you spend all your money and have to call home to get money, to get back home.
Yeah, you heard the story about the guy who drove to Las Vegas in a $125,000 Rolls Royce and left in a $250,000 Greyhound bus.
Oh, yeah. So what we did, we stopped out at the edge of town before we even went in and got a hotel. We stopped out at the edge of town, figured up how much money it would take to get back home. And I traveled mostly with cash back then. I had a credit card for hotels and stuff like that, but I bought almost everything in cash. And so we figured up how much it would take to get back home. And we took that much money and put it in the glove compartment. That way, when we're in the hotel, when we're in the casino, or we're out at a show or something like that, we don't have that money with us. If you ain't got it with you, you can't spend it.
There you go.
And so, anyway, we went back up to the room. Well, I realized then that we couldn't even go to a show of any kind because the kid can't go with us.
Wow.
And they didn't have hotels then that take care of your kids.
Yeah, the shows even now. Well, back then the shows, what would be if they were shown today, they'd be G-rated because the girls are skimpy and they have provocative.
No, we wasn't even looking for that kind of show. We were just looking for the famous singers, and things like that.
But even those, they'll have those showgirls come out and do the introductions and pass the signs, and they'll just have some just as token Las Vegas patina.
Yeah.
But that's back then that was considered 18 and over only.
But the point is, we couldn't take the kid nowhere.
Yeah.
End of story.
That's terrible. It's more family friendly now.
So I went down to the front desk and talked to the lady there. And I said, we've drove a long way and we come out here, to see about Las Vegas. We'd never been here. And now I find out that since we got the kid with us, we're out of luck. We can't go nowhere or do nothing.
It's like having a dog.
Because, can't leave him in the room by himself. And, or he wasn't but about, I don't know, 7, something like that.
Wow, no.
And, can't leave him in the room by himself. If he's 16, that'd be different. But, you can't leave a 7-year-old. And she said, we've got babysitting services.
Wow.
I said, you do? I said, where, who do I talk to? She said, just look in the phone book in your room. Just look under B for babysitting. Said there's a whole list of them.
Hotel directory.
They're licensed by the state. They're bonded. They come to your room. They either drive their car or get a cab. They come to your room, and they stay with your children until you get back. And then you pay them by the hour, and of course pay their cab fare.
Yeah.
I said, okay, we can do that. So I went back up to the room, told the wife and the kid what I found out. Well, he wasn't too enamored with that idea. He didn't want no babysitter. But anyway, I called one, a real nice lady I was talking to. So in just a little bit, she showed up, and she was a older middle-aged lady, not old, but she was probably 50. She was probably 45 or 50. And she had 2 big old canvas tote bags, one on each shoulder, that had various things, to keep kids entertained with. So we left, but we felt uneasy leaving him there by himself. He wasn't going to be having no fun, and we're out here at the casinos. She wanted to play slot machines. She was just like the kid. She wanted to play slot machines. So I went over there to the window and got a big old bucket, like a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, full of nickels.
The machines near the door pay off more than the ones around the walls proper.
And so I gave that to her.
Some of them are over 50% because they want people not to leave.
And I play blackjack. I'm pretty decent blackjack player.
Yeah.
So I went over and played blackjack for a little bit, low stakes, not the big high stakes games, but just low stakes blackjack. I like to play it for fun. I don't like to lose money playing it, but I enjoy playing it.
If you can remember every card that was played and know the odds, you can actually make money at blackjack.
Oh, I can't remember every card, but I'm not saying I can't remember a good portion of them.
Well, I know of
but anyway,
I
was playing blackjack. She was playing slot machines. And we went to a couple of shows. But all this time, we were kind of concerned about the boy being there by himself, so we called it a night early.
Yeah.
Went back to the hotel, and we got back, walked into the room, and him and this lady was down in the floor and playing games, and he looked up at us like, well, why are y'all back? I'm having a good time.
So she was entertaining him.
Oh, yeah. He was having a good time.
Get down and play board games and stuff with the kid. Most of them just, make sure he's safe and happy and disengage, Well, that is.
No, she was down there. They'd been playing games ever since we'd left.
Yeah.
He liked games. He liked things that, would challenge him.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since he was real small.
Wonderful. I knew a couple. The woman was Bridge Shark. She was in the Texas National Tournaments every year. And she and her husband took a vacation. They passed through Las Vegas in the trailer. They went into the casinos, and she'd never played that kind of cards before. And so she learned blackjack, and they explained the rules to her, like having 3 decks, and they go through all of them. And the dealer must stand on 17 and all these other things.
Right.
And she, being used to counting cards and calculating the odds in bridge, rapidly figured out that once the deck was, until the deck was about half played, you could break even. When the deck got thin, if you remembered everything that had been played, you could make money. And so she started doing that. Well, when she started winning, they send all their investigative team over there, and they watched her for taking notes and electronic devices and so forth. And her husband was just sitting there. He was just a retired motel operator, and he wasn't a bridge man himself. And so they said, okay. So they went to the second line of defense. They started bringing her free drinks. Well, she gave the free drinks to her husband, and that's where I found out that the slot machines by the door pay more, because he entertained himself by going over to the slot machines by the door, and he made money too. Didn't make as much money as she did. They paid for their vacation that way, and they stayed in their trailer in the parking lot. They didn't even take a hotel room.
Well, when we left, after staying there at the Flamingo Hilton and eating a big fancy dinner and going to the shows, playing blackjack and playing slot machines, I won a little bit on blackjack, and she lost some on slot machines.
Yeah.
But when we left town the next day, we stopped and counted all of our money.
Yeah.
We knew how much we'd had the previous day. We stopped and counted our money, and that whole night, including the babysitter and everything, only cost us $37.
I spend more than that going to a movie.
Oh, yeah. That's why I use Amazon Prime. I just stream mine right here to the house.
Yeah, oh, you do. Yeah, we have a rear projection TV, but I've got Blu-ray Live and a Wi-Fi connection to the TV set. If I just hooked up a laptop to that router down on the TV set, I could do that. But I'm unwilling to dedicate a computer to the TV set. For one thing, My wife watches an enormous amount of TV. I watch very little, and she won't be wanting me to operate the damn thing because
Do
I'm
you
a
do you
geek.
do you have Amazon?
Oh yeah,
Do you have Amazon Prime?
yeah.
Well, you don't need a computer. You
How
just
do I get
stream
it to the
Amazon.
TV?
You stream Amazon Prime movies straight to your TV if you got a smart TV.
Well, it's a dumb monitor, and the smarts are in the Blu-ray player. It's you can pick the source. I don't know. I'd have to go and look at it to see if I
Well,
can
your
do that.
Blu-ray player might have an Amazon icon. If it does, click on the Amazon icon.
Mm-hmm.
Use your desktop and set up what they call a playlist.
No, it's a year older than the Amazon streaming offering, or 2 years older. So I'd have to get it to update that. It was a Sony, and they
Well,
wanted
one other thing
$50
you can
extra
do.
for.
Now, what I use, my TV don't have an Amazon icon.
Mm-hmm.
My one in the bedroom does, but the one in the living room don't.
Mm-hmm. But
And
it's the only TV set.
I use a little box called Roku,
Yeah.
ROKU.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
They're real simple to operate. They're real cheap, and you just plug that with HDMI. Plug that into the back of your computer, and it connects wirelessly to your router. The Roku box connects wirelessly to your router.
Yeah.
And then you go to your desktop computer, go choose the movies on Amazon, make you a playlist you want, or watch list they call it.
And you access Roku through the Wi-Fi. It's on your network. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you use the Roku, access the Wi-Fi. That accesses your watch list on Amazon. You scroll through it, figure out what you're in the mood for, click on it, and instantly it's on your TV.
Well, my setup right now is I have a router which I hacked the software on it, the EEPROM, and set it up as an access point. And it it's basically provides an Ethernet jack to the Blu-ray player, which updates its firmware. I think it can also update the TV firmware, but I'm not sure. It's
all of that's totally irrelevant. All of that is totally irrelevant.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that I might be able to get to the internet through either the Blu-ray player or the TV using that connection, because I do have a hardwired internet connection that through that access point. So I just haven't taken the time to hack it and see if it's there.
If your Blu-ray player has the Amazon icon, that's all you need.
It doesn't, because it's too old for that. But I could get another one. For one thing, I don't even think it even plays the two-sided Blu-rays. It may play the two-sided, but I don't think so. I think you have to turn them over.
No. But that Roku box is the easiest way, and you can get them starting at, I don't know, about $50.
Yeah.
There's about 3 different models, and the top line is like $99. That's what I have.
Yeah, I think
and it is just absolutely dead simple to use.
The cheapest I could do it with what I've got now is to get one of those what do they call it, the E boxes from Asus, run on Linux, and hook that to I forget what they call it, but there's an e-book from Asus that cost $150, very inexpensive. Hook that as the laptop to the router, and then hook the HDMI output of the laptop to the TV, and then just do everything on the web with the laptop.
That's all too complicated.
Yeah.
There ain't no point in doing that.
And it costs more than the Roku.
Yeah, like I say, you can buy the lower line of Roku for $50.
Okay.
And it's a wireless connection to your home network, and it just works. I've had mine now for probably a year and a half, and never had one glitch in it. It just always works.
Yeah.
And if she likes TV, the Roku built into it
Mm-hmm.
is about 100 different movie channels, and a lot of it is free. The
By movie
majority of it,
channels,
the
where does he get the
majority
movies?
of it is free.
Where does he get the movies in the movie channels? Are they over the web somewhere?
Mm, I don't know. Roku knows where to get them.
Ah,
All you do is just hit one of the channels and scroll through the different
oh, I
movies
see.
available, and then click the
Mm-hmm.
button, and there's the movie.
So they just know where legal free movies are. I mean, there are a lot
Yeah,
of them out there.
yeah. There's thousands and
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands of
A lot of them are on YouTube in
them.
HD. Yeah, some of the
Uh,
producers put them out there sometimes because they're done with the money making and
uh,
syndication. They just put
well,
them out.
The Roku has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, of course it would. Yeah.
Now my newer TV, the one in the bedroom, it has a YouTube channel. I've never used it,
Mm-hmm.
but it has it.
Okay, our hour's about up right now, so I think we can tie that off and then we can keep on chatting.
So,
Uh, this has been the Thursday night Cadillac Chats. We rambled a bit and got off on the adventures of touring, in particular with Las Vegas, and the aspects of free movies on TV with the near set-top boxes. Texas Jim is a retired IT guru of enormous scope, and he has a lot of knowledge in these areas that is news to me, and it's very welcome. Anyway, this has been our Thursday night Cadillac Chat. Bruce was on the road, Texas Jim. Thank you very much for your contributions tonight, which is most of our chat tonight.
no problem. Sorry I got us all sidetracked on everything but Cadillacs, but
Well, you got there in a Cadillac. Anyway,
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
yeah. Anyway, and you didn't have to listen to me talk about tires. So that's nobody got tired tonight. So we had a good evening, and we'll be back next week, and Bruce will be with you. Talk to you later. Goodbye.